Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to Game Over Toronto following, well, a bit of a disappointing game, to say the least, against the Florida Panthers. A 3-1 loss. Empty netter, sure, but let's be real. The Leafs did not deserve to win this game. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Talk about the ramifications for the playoff picture and I guess just how scared we are of the Panthers. So welcome into the program. My name is Zach Payne. I will be your host for this evening on Game Over Toronto. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Follow us on social media. Follow us if you're listening to this on a podcasting platform as well. We're going to go ahead and get into this. We're just going to dive right in. So the way I like to do these streams, if you've never been here before, if this is your first time joining, is we have 4 segments. First segment, I always like to just do a general game recap, go through the 3 periods, what happened in this game. Second period, then third period. Oh, audio's choppy. That's not good. That's not good. Is the audio actually... hold on. Let me check something. You guys are going to have to let me know. Hold on a moment. How's that? I don't know. How's that, Harmonia? How's the audio now? My relay was coming, like, my feedback was coming through okay, but you guys will have to let me know. If it's bad, I'm sorry. I don't know. Hopefully it's okay. Matthew, you don't find it choppy? Okay, then I'm gonna go off of... Sounds like it's fixed. Perfect. All right. Sorry. Hey, it's all good, Harmonia. I would like to know if the audio is bad. So appreciate the comment regardless. So first segment here, we are just going to get into a game review, general game recap. And this game, oh my Lord, was that a tough watch. Let me tell you. Again, the score was close. The game was not. So to start off, literally like seconds into this game, Joseph Woll immediately sketched me out playing the puck. A theme for the night for Joseph Woll was he wasn't bad. He was fine, but didn't fill me with the most confidence watching him. Whether it was the shots from the point, playing the puck, it was a lot more anxiety inducing than I'm used to with Joseph Woll. So right away, that was just horrifying. Turnover leads to a shot on goal. Bad start. And that was a bad omen for this game. First 10 minutes, the Leafs, well, and really the first period in general, the Leafs could not exit the zone at all. The Florida forecheck, they have some guys back. They're rested. They're feeling good. They're on a 5-game losing streak. They need a win. They were flying. The Florida Panthers were flying in this game. Their forecheck was going in like crazy in the first period. The Leafs had no answers. Over-reliance on the stretch passes, off the glass and out, neutral zone turnovers, defensive zone turnovers. It was all Florida early on. And that is where, Florida would make good on it. About 10 minutes in, it was, I think, about 10:30 to go. Coming back from a commercial break, off the faceoff, bit of a weird play where John Tavares looked like he was ready for the ref to reset the faceoff, but regardless, Panthers win it clean, and Forsling fires a shot from the point, and it goes off the post and in. And as pointed out on the broadcast by Mike Johnson, that's a clean snapshot from 40 feet out. Joseph Woll has to save that. That, of the 2 goals, I can't blame him on the second one that we'll get to in a bit. You got to save that one. You cannot let a defenseman beat you from distance. I don't care how good of a shot it was. You weren't screened. That shot can't go in. Now, I will talk about Woll a little bit more later in terms of why he's not going to start in the playoffs. I'm still, like, I've said it before, I'm comfortable with either guy. I still am, but the reason that Woll is not going to start was on display in this game. So Forsling opens the scoring, and then the rest of the first period was an absolute tire fire from the Leafs. Just a disaster in terms of being able, like, they just didn't have the puck. The Panthers had the puck in the O-zone the entire time. The saving grace of that, Florida didn't have any real dangerous chances. Yes, Forsling scored. That wasn't a dangerous chance. He just beat Woll clean from distance. I think the Panthers did, like, the Leafs were doing a great job keeping them to the outside and playing their brand of hockey. It was just a very extreme version of what a prospective series against the Panthers could look like, where the Leafs or the Panthers have the puck for 75% of the time, but the amount of quality chances aren't really there just because the Leafs are packing the middle, forcing them to the outside, and not allowing any high danger passes through the slot. But that was a horrible first period. Then to start the second, you knew the Leafs had to come out with more urgency because the first was horrible. You had to come out with a little bit more push. And Marner early on it was a weird play where Florida just didn't have anyone on that side of the ice. Marner comes in from a weird angle, takes a slap shot, beats Bobrovsky off the post. A slap shot off the rush from Marner. Very rare opportunity, very rare attempt, like shot attempt, and very unique angle to beat a goaltender with a slap shot, but it doesn't go in. Moments later, though, John Tavares off the rush, he fires a snapshot off the bar and in. So the bells were ringing early in the period. Leafs are able to tie it up. That was the only goal they would get, but again, is what it is. So the Panthers go to the power play. Leafs have a pretty solid penalty kill. Panthers had one pretty decent chance, but it wasn't anything too crazy. Simone Benoit did get hurt for a little bit, blocking a shot. He took a shot to the forearm where there's just not a lot of padding. Then Bobrovsky actually takes a delay of game penalty. You don't see that every day. You don't see a goalie fire it out of play too often. So gave the Leafs an opportunity. Unfortunately, on that power play, absolutely nothing. The Leafs had one shot. The Panthers' penalty kill had two, including a breakaway from Brad Marchand after Nick Robertson with an inexcusable giveaway. But Joseph Woll stood tall, keeps it a 1-1 game for the time being. Then Tavares did have a good chance on that power play. Nylander fed him for a decent opportunity, but he couldn't one-time it, and Bobrovsky was able to slide across. Then starting the third period, I feel so bad. This is a player I've ragged on all year, for good reason. Morgan Rielly, who's been good since the trade deadline. Brandon Carlo has been a revelation next to him, but Morgan Rielly completely flubs a puck off the end boards. It rolls right out in front to, I believe it was Luostarinen, who just kind of accidentally scores a goal because he wasn't expecting the puck. Just quick work to lift Carlo's stick. Carlo couldn't react in time, and it banks off of Joseph Woll. He gets a piece of it, and then it trickles in. Just a very unfortunate play from Rielly and against the Leafs there. It's not really anyone else's fault. Like, Rielly just couldn't control it, and Carlo couldn't react in time because why would he be expecting the puck to come out in front there? Alas, it's 2-1. Then for probably 6 or 7 minutes following that, Florida continued to control the pace of play, establish the forecheck, limit the Leafs' ability to do anything with the puck. Leafs get another power play, 0 shots on that power play. Not much doing on that one. And then the only real chance the Leafs had to tie this game up comes off of a Seth Jones turnover. Now, I will say, Seth Jones, probably the only Florida Panther that had a truly bad game. Jones was bad in this one, and he's been pretty mid over the last stretch. Brutal turnover, and Marner feeds Matthews in the slot. Point-blank shot. Bobrovsky stands tall. The rebound goes to Matthew Nyes. He takes a shot. It gets blocked, and the Leafs never really generated anything of quality the rest of the game. With the net empty, Mitch Marner, valiant effort to block a couple of would-be goals defending the empty net there, but Matthews with a bad play in the neutral zone. Barkov strips it from him. Couple chances later, and eventually the Panthers bury the empty netter. Gets us to our final score of 3-1. Now, as far as individual performances go, I thought Matthews and Matthew Nyes were okay on the forecheck in this game. The Leafs really struggled to do anything, so they were the only ones that I was like, okay, I can kind of see what you're trying to do. Mitch Marner obviously hits the post, and he did set up Matthews for a good chance. He did force the issue a little bit more in transition too. It's tough. Like, trying to think of things I liked from the Leafs in this game. It's tough to find things. Max Domi and Calle Yarncroke had a couple nice plays in transition, but most of my positive notes in this one are like blocked shots, stopped a cycle in the defensive zone. As far as bad performances, I thought, most of the team had a bad night. Oliver Ekman-Larsson in particular stood out as having a pretty poor night. William Nylander very uncharacteristically sloppy game from William Nylander. Lots of offensive zone turnovers and lots of just flubbing the puck at the blue line. Wasn't really a fan, and the Leafs just had nothing. Like, as much as I can grasp at straws to come up with positive things to say here, the Leafs had zero offense in this game. I don't even think they generated one expected goal. Be thankful that they scored a goal and that they didn't get shut out. That's really all the positive I can say about their offensive game. I do, in general, think that defensively, considering how little the Leafs had the puck, and Florida, considering the amount of shot attempts the Panthers had, the Leafs still limited the quality of those shots pretty well in this game. Overall, if you just look at the defensive side of the game, you can look at that and say, okay, the Leafs were pretty good defensively. Pretty good. Perfect? No, but pretty good. The problem was when the Leafs had the puck. And every time the Leafs had the puck, it was a disaster. And we'll get into why in a little bit later. Lastly, I just want to touch on Joseph Woll. So, Joseph Woll, very solid. He's a above average starting goaltender in the NHL, I would say. I would reckon he's a top 15 to 20 goaltender. Like, he is a legitimate starting goaltender in the NHL. The problem with Joseph Woll is two things. Number one, I don't like him playing the puck. He's way too... I don't want to say risky, because it's not like he's purposely being risky. He's just very sketchy with the puck. It's almost like he doesn't recognize the risk of other players rushing in. There was numerous chances in this game, or not chances, but numerous occasions in this game in which Woll was behind the net, and before he got rid of the puck, there were Panthers players getting a stick on it or hitting him behind the net. So don't love that. But the other thing is Joseph Woll, his biggest weakness is seeing through traffic and stopping shots from distance. We saw that on the Forsling goal, and throughout this game, he just had a difficult time tracking all of the outside shots the Panthers were putting on. Granted, none of them really went in, but they were creating chances off of those. And in a potential playoff series, those are the time, like, that's where he could be exploited a little bit. And that's why Anthony Stolarz, his weakness is he's not great with rebound control. He gives up a lot of juicy rebounds. The difference between those two is the Leafs team defense can mitigate a goaltender who has rebound issues, right? You pack the middle of the ice, you can swat away rebounds. You can't really do anything about a goalie who doesn't track the puck well on shots from distance, right? You just kind of are screwed in that situation, right? Like, if Anthony Stolarz, a weak shot from the point, maybe it's a bit of a seeing eye and it hits Stolarz and there's a juicy rebound, a Leafs defender can swat it away, ice it for all I care, and you avoid any risk. For Joseph Woll, that puck has a higher chance of just going in, and you can't really do anything when a shot from distance just goes in. So that's the reason that that Stolarz is going to start game one and probably just be the goalie in the playoffs, especially against the Panthers, because look, I can see the argument for having Joseph Woll in a series against the Senators or the Lightning, but less so the Senators, more so the Lightning. If you're playing Tampa, I could understand an argument there because you have to deal with a lot of short range movement, especially dealing with that power play. You have to be able to stop those backdoor passes from Kucherov. That's where Joseph Woll could be more useful, but against a good forechecking team that goes to the net and takes a lot of shots from distance, Anthony Stolarz is the clear choice. So with that being said, that is where we're going to wrap up the game recap. We're going to move on to our second segment here. And as I do, just a reminder to hit like, hit subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And if you want to support the Game Over Network in any way, you can go and check out our merch over at thegameovernetwork.com. We have merch for every single Canadian market. We have hats, hoodies, shirts, mugs. Go check it out. Thegameovernetwork.com. Again, merch available for every Canadian market. So as we turn over to our second period, before I get into the topic, I'm going to catch up on chat. So Matthew here saying that the Leafs keep facing their end when trying to exit the zone. I'm going to talk about that stuff in a second. We did help our chances of facing Ottawa. You've increased the chances Ottawa is the top wildcard team. You actually decreased your chances of playing the top wildcard team. So Ottawa did lose in regulation tonight. So with the Panthers win, Senators loss, the Panthers now have a 4-point buffer, and the Panthers have 4 games remaining. It's hard to see the Panthers letting go of that 3rd seed, especially if you look at their remaining schedule. They have games against the Red Wings, Sabres, Rangers, and the Lightning. You imagine they come away with at least 2 wins in that and will secure a top 3 spot in the Atlantic. But the Leafs, suddenly, if you lose tomorrow night to Tampa in regulation, Tampa is now the top of the division. So if you lose tomorrow night, you're locked into a matchup with the Panthers again. So you do actually increase. So yeah, you increase the chances Ottawa's the top wildcard team. You decrease your chances of playing the top wildcard team, and your chances of winning the division definitely went down. Top line is almost invisible. Austin is slowly, I'm assuming slowly losing that sniper. I'm going to assume you mean he's slowly losing the shot, is what you're implying there. I don't know. Bad game from the top line, bad game from everyone. I don't want to criticize too much about what Matthews is going to be in the playoffs, because this was not a good example for anyone. We'll just have to see. Matthews has shown he can step it up in certain games. It just, we have a game in hand. Yes, we do. Actually, not anymore. I don't believe we do anymore. That loss, that was our game in hand, was tonight against Florida. Stoley starts the playoffs, no question, agreed. Even if Stolarz gets pulled tomorrow, we'll say he starts game 1, agreed. Hard to argue against Stolarz, agreed. It was pointed out that Wool has a Robertson scratch and win record in the playoffs. Yeah, this was the game in hand. Armonia, you are absolutely correct. This was the game in hand. We have the same amount of games as Tampa. The good news is if you beat Tampa, you're 4 points up with 4 games remaining. You should be able to take care of business there. We'll just have to see. We'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. But with that being said, let's quickly talk about the offense in this game. So I want to talk about how the Leafs handle the forecheck in a little bit. We're just focusing on the offense tonight. All aspects of the offense. 5-on-5, 6-on-5 with the goalie with the net empty, and on the power play. Just everything encompassing trying to score. I want to talk about this for a second, because we've had a problem all season. And by we, I mean the Leafs. I'm not on the Leafs. I shouldn't say we. The Leafs have had this problem all season, where they try to grind games to a halt. Chances are at a premium. But in this game, they also showed another potential fatal flaw. That being that the Leafs' forecheck is hit or miss. They are shockingly mid at the dump and chase, because what will often happen is the Leafs will dump it in from the neutral zone for one of 2 reasons. One is they're just going to change and they want to get rid of it for some reason. And the other is actually trying to establish a forecheck. When they're going in on the forecheck, the Leafs are actually really bad at timing the dump in, and they're really bad at actual dump in, not in terms of chasing it, but in terms of where the puck ends up. So, for example, let's say a defenseman is skating up to the red line and he dumps it in. That dump in is going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be they ring it around the boards and hope that the winger on the other side can go chase it, or it's going to be kind of floated in more and hit the backboards, and then you have to go chase behind the net. When they ring it around the boards, either Bobrovsky was coming out and stopping it, or it wasn't hard enough and the Panthers defender was able to get it cleanly, turn it up ice, easy breakout. The other thing is if they dump it in behind the net, the angle at which they're dumping it in it's bouncing off the boards too easily, or too far rather. And again, it's too quick of a dump in to where the forwards can't catch up to the puck. So the Panthers were having a really easy time breaking out of their own end because the Leafs couldn't catch up to the puck before the Panthers got their defensive zone retrievals and then turned it up ice to then create a counterattack opportunity. The other thing, on the cycle, the Leafs got caught in the trap that they had the Panthers in for most of the night, which is they weren't getting to the dangerous areas. Let's check. I'm going to check natural stat trick real quick, because I know what the stats were after 2 periods. I don't know what it finished at. So the Toronto Maple Leafs, in this game, they average, on the season, they average around 11 high danger chances per game. In this game, they had 3. 3. They had 1 in the first, 0 in the second, which is hilarious because they actually scored in the second, and then 2 in the third. I know one of those was the Matthews chance off the turnover. I have no idea what the other one even was. And granted, they held Florida to 8, which is good, but the Leafs had less than 1 expected goal in this game. There was just no direction offensively. They were holding on to the puck way too long. They weren't getting pucks to the net. They weren't getting traffic to the net. They weren't getting bodies to the net, and they weren't getting bodies on the forecheck. It was just all around bad, and the rush offense was slightly better. Again, Calle Yarncroke had at least 1 chance in transition. I think that was technically a bit of a, not really a rush chance, but that the turnover again is where the Matthews chance came. I think McMahon might have had a net rush. Like, I don't think I can name more than like 2 or 3 chances that the Leafs got 5-on-5. It was just bad. It was just a 0 offense kind of game. And I do worry, now this is where we get into the power play. The power play had 1 shot on 2 opportunities, and they gave up 2, including a breakaway off a sloppy play by Robertson. I do, for as good as the power play has been the last 2 months, I do have concerns about how they play against a good playoff caliber team. You saw Ottawa in this game, and it's the same story that it always is in the playoffs. Aggressive penalty kill. You force the Leafs to pass it to the half wall to John Tavares, and then the Leafs can't do anything. I'm really hoping, like, tomorrow night against Tampa, I need to see the power play look a lot more dangerous. I don't care if they score, because that's whatever. They need to look a lot more dangerous. The penalty kill on their 1 opportunity, they did a pretty good job. You're playing a much more potent power play in Tampa Bay tomorrow night. So again, same thing. Just want to see them start to build on that. I worry about this team. Obviously, the concern about the offense is valid for years in the playoffs, but I'm very concerned about the ability to earn offense the right way. I'm sure they'll score 1 to 2 goals a game in the playoffs, just based on sheer math and odds. I am concerned about the playoff style goals, and I'm concerned about actually earning the goals that they will score and earning offensive chances. With that being said, I've been a Nicky Bobby fan from the beginning, but I'm worried about him against a hard-hitting team like Florida. Nicky Bobby's not going to be in the playoff lineup. Robertson's not. He's going to be your 13th forward. When Kampf is healthy, Kampf is going to be the 4th line center. I think Pacioretty might become the 4th line right winger instead of Holmberg. We'll see. But no, Robertson's just not going to be in the lineup. And it sucks, but play him in Game 7 for a guaranteed goal, I guess. All right, with that being said, I'm going to turn this over to our 3rd segment. As I do, as always, reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And if you want to support us in any other way, you can go check out our Patreon. It'll be in the description box down below. Patreon, we have both free and paid tiers. You can go check it out. You can get access to our Discord server. Come hang out with all of us in the Game Over Discord server as well. Again, Patreon link is in the description. Okay, 3rd segment. We have to talk about, to me, the single most concerning thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of their ability to win in the playoffs. This right here scares me more than the offense. It scares me more than the power play. It scares me more than the penalty kill. This right here is my number 1 concern heading into the playoffs. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about exiting the defensive zone with possession. If you watch that game, there is such a stark contrast between the way the Panthers break out against the forecheck and how the Leafs do. Now, I want to be fair. The Panthers have the best forecheck in the league. The Leafs do not. That is a factor. However, it comes down more to the plan. Florida, they have a very clear plan on the breakout. When the other team dumps it in and you retrieve it behind your own net, this is what the Panthers do. They do a short pass on the boards to a winger. That winger does a short pass in the middle to either the center up near the blue line or back to the defenseman in the lower slot, and they break out as a 5-man unit. All right? They do this every time. The Leafs, it's one of two things. One is off the glass and out. They just lob it off the glass and out. No questions asked. Turn it over in the neutral zone. Whatever. You live to fight another day. Or it's a stretch pass from your own zone to at least center, oftentimes further than center. And those passes are often either deflected, they miss and it's an icing, or if it is completed, then you have someone that's breaking in 1 or 2 on 2. Not ideal. So, right here, the reason that this is so concerning is because if you look at what the Panthers were able to do to the Leafs, every time a Leafs defender got the puck in their own zone, they were under pressure. The problem is when you're under pressure, you have to be thinking super quick. Even the players that I know how to handle a forecheck, like Chris Tanev or Brandon Carlo, they get the puck. They're not fazed by the forecheck because they've been here before. They know how to defend against this. They know what they have to do. But then Chris Tanev will look up ice and there's no passing options. So he has to lob it off the glass and out just to survive, or he forces a stretch pass. Morgan Rielly is the biggest offender of this. He is the stretch pass king for better or worse, and it's mostly worse. The Leafs forwards are useless on the breakout. Every time the Leafs successfully broke out of the zone with possession so that they could actually push to the other side of the ice and generate offense, it was when the forwards were deeper in the defensive zone. You could have short, effective passes into open ice, take what the defense is giving you in the neutral zone, and then dump it in, establish your own forecheck, and try to force turnovers from them. That only happened a handful of times compared to the stretch passes and lobbing it off the glass and out. That is my number one concern. Because, as we know, the defensive zone turnovers led to the Panthers running circles around them in the first period. The neutral zone turnovers mean you're never generating offense. And then when you do get in the neutral zone with possession, you're dumping it into the other team's zone to change. You're not actually generating a forecheck. You're just trying to get off the ice. So that is... It's a huge concern. It's been the biggest problem for years. And honestly, if we're looking at why the Leafs can't generate offense in the playoffs, it's because they can't break out of their own zone effectively. So it's a domino effect, right? You can't exit the zone with possession. That means you're not able to establish a forecheck or generate any rush chances. You also get more tired because you're defending the whole time and chasing the puck, and the other team ends up running circles around you, and you also get hammered on the forecheck because they're dumping it in, hitting you, forcing you to throw it off the glass and out, and then rinse, repeat. Like, it is clockwork every single time, and I'm worried, man. I'm worried. Now, here's the cope. Here is the caveat. Here is the asterisk with this. In the regular season, teams are not as focused on the matchup. They're focusing on trying to play their brand of hockey and solidifying the way they play. Now, granted, that is also concerning because of the reasons I just outlined, but I digress. Let's say the nightmare scenario, the Leafs have to play the Panthers in the first round. Let's say Tampa wins the division, Toronto slides down to the 2 seed, and you have to play Florida. The only saving grace is the Leafs will be able to look at how effective Florida is on the forecheck and adjust and say, hey, you know what? Against a team like this, we have to have the forwards be lower in the zone so we can break out as a 5-man unit. I don't know why it hasn't been the case all season. This is how you should just be playing. It's basic hockey. This is not the run and gun Leafs of years past. You want to be a more structured team. You have to rely less on stretch passes. Plain and simple. So, with that being said, bit of a shorter show today. I will get to questions now. I'm going to turn it over to our fourth segment. If you have any questions about the Leafs, about the playoffs, about the playoff picture, feel free to let me know. As always, reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. I just talked for a long time, so now my throat's sore. Woo! All right. I got to catch up with chat too. Berube should have Rielly and OEL watch tons of video of Hughes. Well, no, please don't, because they are not Quinn Hughes. And they're never going to be able to replicate that. Have Morgan Rielly watch footage of Morgan Rielly from 2023. The 2023 playoffs against Tampa Bay. Go watch that film, Morgan. Get back to that. OEL, I don't know. OEL has just been kind of a dud as of late. I do not love OEL in the top 4. On the third pair, hopefully he's better, but yeah, not a good night. Timmins and Liljugren weren't great defensively and did get picked off, but at least they tried to push the transition, sort of. But the thing is, they were so bad against the forecheck that they wouldn't get the opportunity in the playoffs. That's the problem. What did you think of Myers? You know what? I didn't really notice him, which is a good thing. You don't want to notice defenders. He had one a really good shot block, but he was just fine. It was the same as the rest of the defensemen. They just struggled to complete passes out of their own zone. So it is what it is. I didn't think Benoit had a good night, but yeah, I can see why Benoit's been in the lineup so much. Like, that's your top 6, right? Your top 6 in the playoffs: McCabe, Tanev, Riley, Carlo, Benoit, OEL. Forwards: Nyes, Matthews, Marner, McMahon, Tavares, Nylander, Lawton, Domi, Yarncroke, Lorentz, Kampf, Pacioretty, or Holmberg. There's one spot up for grabs on forward. That's it. Like, the lines are set, guys, unfortunately. Well, maybe not unfortunately. If they win, I don't care. If they win, hooray. But they just have to play better than they did tonight. And granted, they have been playing. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because they've been playing, like, Saturday was a legitimately fantastic game. And they've been playing well as of late. They've been controlling the quality chances. It got away from them tonight because Florida is manufactured in a lab to beat them. They're still a better team this year, right? Yes. And you know what? I have a rant. I have a rant about what these playoffs mean, but you're going to have to wait until the post game of game 82 for that. You're going to have to wait for that. I have a rant prepared. I know exactly how I feel about this team. You're going to have to wait for game 82 for that one. But in the meantime, what I can tell you is they are a better version of the team they were last year. Last year's team, despite Nylander missing 3 games, Matthews missing 2.5 games, and being a corpse in Game 7, they were an overtime away from winning in the first round. So they're a better version of that team. If they are a better team and lose, does it make it worse? They are a better team than last year, so that'll make it worse by default. I assume you mean if they're the better team than their opponent. Like, if they outplay their opponent and lose, will it make it worse? Absolutely. Could you imagine if they, like, after getting, like, rinsed by Florida in the season series, Florida wins 3 of 4, and the one game that the Leafs did win, half the Panthers, like, the Panthers were missing a bunch of key pieces, and you still got outplayed. It could, if the Leafs were suddenly able to turn that around, outplay Florida, and Bobrovsky goalies them, or Stolarz / Wool fall apart, that would stink. That would suck. But it would also, at the same time, here's the nightmare. Okay? Because we're Leaf fans, right? We know how to drum up a true nightmare scenario. The nightmare is the Leafs thoroughly outplay their opponent, whoever it is, and they get goalied and their goaltending falls apart. But they play so well that it convinces management to run it back, re-sign Marner to however much, re-sign Tavares, you have to re-sign Nyes. They don't really change anything, and they just bring back the same damn team again. Or the other scenario is you repeat 2023, where you win a round, but then kind of get rinsed in the second round, but they can say, oh, well, we won a round, so it must work. Stop. So I have a lot of thoughts about this Leafs team ability to get it done in the playoffs compared to previous years. Granted, didn't you just recap the series against Montreal? No, I did not, because the Leafs, they were shell-shocked in game 1 after Tavares got hurt, whatever. Then they rinsed the Habs for 3 straight games 2, 3, and 4, and take a 3-1 series lead. Then they died. The Habs then proceeded to rinse them in game 5. the Leafs almost made a miracle comeback before Galchenyuk decided to hand away the game in overtime. They get their asses kicked up and down the block in Game 6 in the Bell Center and somehow make it to overtime. Then they actually play decent in overtime, but then they lose because it's overtime, one-shot wins. And then in Game 7, they play their worst game of the series, and they don't score until there's like a minute left. So, sort of, they were better for the first 4 games, and then they died. They choked. My hope is the Leafs beat Ottawa and Tampa beats or at least softens up the Panthers and we roll through to glory. So that is, Luke, that is exactly the hope. You hope that you can beat Ottawa because Ottawa is just a worse version of the Leafs. So if you lose to Ottawa, I have some serious questions about how that happened. Because, look, Ottawa's a solid defensive team, but they play very similarly to the Leafs. The difference is when the Sens get the lead, they park the bus so aggressively. So the Leafs will be able to get chances against them. You just have to beat Allmark, which we'll see. But you also have to have your penalty kill do anything. That would be the other thing. But then, let's say the Leafs do beat the Sens. You are praying to the holiest of deities that the Tampa and Florida series goes 7 games. They beat each other up, and you hope Tampa comes out of that because the Leafs' chances of beating Tampa versus beating Florida, I would say, like, okay, if you line both teams up fully healthy right now, I would say against Tampa, it's probably 53% that the Leafs will win. Maybe 55. Let's say that. Florida, I'm going to say like 40% or worse. And again, if every hockey game is roughly 50-50, 40% is extreme. And I like, can you see the Leafs beating the Panthers in a 7-game series? Not unless the power play really blacks out. An Ottawa series comes with 2 really Leaf-friendly buildings too. Yes, that is true, but it will not be as extreme as it is in the regular season. I would say, like in the regular season, if in Ottawa it's like 60% Leaf fans, I think it'll be 60% Sens fans. Like Ottawa fans won't be as inclined to sell their tickets, so the season ticket holders will be there. It'll be more Ottawa fans. We have a better chance against Ottawa. No demons for us. The demons are themselves. The Leafs demons are themselves. And Boston, but Boston's not here. 7 games of triple overtime? Yes, please. Guys, the Leafs season is all over. Don't kid yourselves. After tonight, they just sealed their fate. So, Terry, I know that you've been chomping at the bit to really dive into why the Leafs will lose. You gotta have hope. Otherwise, what's the point of watching? If you don't watch, you have to go into the playoffs and at least want them to win or hope that they can win. Otherwise, if you go into every game being like, they stink, they're never going to win, then it's going to be a miserable time to watch because then you won't get excited when they actually win a game or score goals. So I understand all the concerns. At the same time, again, they're a better version of the team they were last year. And last year's team, despite everything going wrong, was a goal away from winning in the first round against Boston. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and advocate that they're going to win the cup. I'm not going to sit here and advocate that they're going to make it to the conference finals. I'm not even going to sit here and advocate that they will win round 1. All I'm saying is they have just as good a chance as anyone. They just have to figure it out for once. As Matthew says, hope but no expectations. Yes. This is the thing. You just have to, look, the Leafs have hurt us way too many times. All right? There is no reason to ever trust them until they get it done. But this is why we cheer. For the hope that things will be different. With that being said, that is going to be the note we end on. I think that's a perfect way to end this show. So If you have any last second questions, if it's a good one, I'll answer it. But that's going to be it for this episode of Game Over Toronto. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everyone in the chat for being so amazing to deal with, as always. I love interacting with you guys. And as always, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto, especially if you're new here. We'd love to have you around for our next show as well, and the rest of the shows in the season, and all the playoff shows as well. If you're on a podcasting platform, make sure you follow and leave a review. Follow the Game Over Network on all social media as well. You can find me on Twitter and Bluesky at Zach Payne 41, and if you're interested in football content, you can find me at Zach Payne 41 as well. So with that being said, thank you so much, everyone. As Terry says in the chat, go Leafs go. Hopefully they can take care of business tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Cheers.